The sponsor assessment form can be downloaded from the IRCC website or directly from the Permanent Residence portal under the Group Members page. This sponsor assessment form is to be used by those who are signing the undertaking document. So for example, for a group of 5, each of the 5 group members will need to submit a sponsor assessment form. When it comes to a community sponsorship group, the representative who has the signing authority for the community sponsor organization will need to submit the sponsor assessment form. If the community sponsor organization is partnering with a co-sponsoring individual or a co-sponsoring organization, the co-sponsor will also need to submit a sponsor assessment form. When it comes to sponsorship agreement holders, now the sponsor assessment form is generally submitted at the time you apply to become a sponsorship agreement holder. So these sponsor assessment forms for the SAW signing authority will not need to be submitted with the applications that you submit for private sponsorship. And those sponsor assessment forms for the signing authorities for your SAW are kept on file at IRCC. However, any constituent group signing authority will need to submit a sponsor assessment. If you're working with any co-sponsoring individuals or a co-sponsoring organization, those persons will also each need to submit the sponsor assessment with each application that you submit to IRCC for private sponsorship as a sponsorship agreement holder. Now let's take a look at the sponsor assessment form. So all of the questions being asked on this form are basically determining whether you are eligible to be a sponsor under the Private Sponsorship of Refugees program. Section A, the name of the sponsoring group. Now this will be applicable for sponsorship agreement holder organizations. So this is where you would put the organization name, the name of your SAW. It is also applicable for community sponsorship groups. This is where you will put the name of your organization. When it comes to groups of 5, this is not applicable. You can put NA or you can leave it blank. Section B is where you will put the name of the individual who's filling in this form. Section C is where you would put any other names that this individual who's filling in this form has used in the past. Section D, you're going to be indicating whether you are 18 years of age or older. Section E, you will be indicating whether you are a citizen, a registered Indian, or permanent resident of Canada. Section F, you will be indicating whether or not you reside in the community where the refugee will live, or you're indicating that you have a representative who will reside in the community where the refugee will live, known as the expected community of resettlement. This is where you are going to indicate to IRCC any previous criminal activity that you may have had. So have you been found guilty of a crime inside Canada, specifically of the offense of murder, or of an offense that is outlined in Schedule 1 or Schedule 2 of the Corrections and Conditional Releases Act? So you will need to click on the links that are in this form to learn what types of offenses or crimes they may be referring to. In particular, you may want to pay attention to the serious crime of drinking and driving. Below that, you'll see you also have to indicate if you have been convicted outside of Canada of an offense that, if you were to commit that crime in Canada, is considered to be a crime according to Canadian law. So, for example, a crime that is not considered to be an offense in Canada under Canadian law is the crime of blasphemy. And so you would not need to indicate a response of yes. for that type of crime. But for any crimes that match crimes in Canada that are considered to be an offense, then you would have to indicate yes. And then you'd have to provide the details of what the charge and sentence was at the bottom, and the date that it occurred, and the location where it occurred. Now, the only time you do not have to indicate crimes that you have been found guilty for, that you've been convicted of, is if you have received a pardon or a final determination of acquittal, or if 5 years have passed since you completed your sentence. So if you went to jail or spent time in detention for that crime, and it has been 5 years since that happened, then you do not have to indicate a response of yes. You do not have to disclose any details of that conviction on this form. Under Section H, you're going to indicate if you're in default of any court-ordered support payment obligations. What this means is if the courts have decided that you must pay child support or spousal support, and a court order has been drawn to ensure that you do that, but you have not made those payments, or you have missed payments, that is considered to be in default of court-ordered support payment obligations. So you would need to indicate yes for question H if that occurred. You would also need to indicate if you're currently detained in any penitentiary, jail, reformatory, or prison. Section J, you would also need to indicate if you've been ordered to leave Canada. So if you have status in Canada and it is being revoked or being taken away, you would need to indicate yes, that you have been ordered to leave Canada. Section K is similar. You may not have been ordered to leave Canada yet, but your case is being reviewed for revocation. So is there a current review of your immigration status taking place right now? If that is the case, then you would have to indicate yes. Section L. This is the section asking you if it is okay for IRCC to notify the other members of this sponsoring group if you do not meet the eligibility requirements. Now, placing a check mark of yes means that they will be able to tell the other group members that the reason their application has been refused is because one of the group members is not eligible to be a party to the sponsorship. They will not provide the reason why you're not eligible to be a party to the sponsorship, just that you don't qualify to be a private sponsor. Section M is where you're going to sign the form. When you sign it, you are declaring that the information you have provided in the form and any attached documents you are including is true, complete, and accurate. You are also agreeing that when you type your name in the signature box below, you are digitally signing the form. And you can refer to the sponsorship application guide for your signature option. So basically, it's telling you that you do have the option to still sign in pen if you wish. However, it is not necessary to sign in pen. A digital signature, such as typing your name in the signature box, will be acceptable. So you're going to print your name, so basically typing your name under the name box, and then you're going to type it again under the signature box. And then you can date the form with the date that you're submitting your application. Now, when you submit this form, you're also going to be submitting a copy of your photo ID. And this photo ID, ideally, would include your address information, where you are currently residing. If it does not, you may want to include another piece of identification along with your photo ID that shows your current residential address. So that is it for the sponsor assessment form.